been over a month since the Pahalgam attack. How do you think our response was?
It is not only a signal but also punishment to the lords and masters of who have been sponsoring training. They are the control headquarters. They are the actual leaders who have been sitting in comfort, very close to military cantonments, thinking that nothing will happen to them and they can continue to run a proxy war against India. I think it was to tell those people that if you're going to plan anything against India, we are going to get you wherever you are.
Did you think Rawalpindi got our message loud and clear?
I think Rawalpindi got the message loud and clear, but I do not know if they got the punishment loud and clear.
One day before we concluded Operation Sindoor, IMF had granted them about $2.3 billion of loan, which is unfathomable, especially during a time of a crisis.
I think it is fathomable. The Western world look at Pakistan as a more willing partner.
What is the use case? Terrorism is one use case. I don't think they have a lot of national resources or any technology that they create or any manufacturing that they do. What is the use case for the Western countries? I understand China's use case is to deter India. But what is the use case for the US, for instance?
As I mentioned in the beginning, that I think the war has not fully unfolded. It is a very small portion of the complete war if it was to unfold. Not to get the entire Pakistan army into it, but the fact of the matter is that we have to realize who was the mastermind.
Ever since in the 90s, Pakistan was able to create its nuclear power. They have realized that they've got a blank check, which they can get sanctioned anytime, because it could create a problem for the West if Pakistan was to sell off its nuclear tactics strategy to countries like Israel or adversaries which don't have nuclear capabilities at the moment. And that is why IMF continues to bail them out, because if they don't bail them out, they'll have to sell these nuclear information and strategies to the countries that don't possess it, and maybe it goes to the wrong hands as well. Do you think that's a right thought process?
Firstly, who gave them the technology and how the nuclear assets were built? Many people believe Americans helped them. Many people think Chinese helped them.
Mm-hmm.
Many people think that no, it was more of their internal struggle, and that we will eat grass and we will still build a bomb, and then maybe the money came from the Islamic world because they were to build an Islamic bomb.
After Operation Sindoor, the dust may have settled, but the real questions have just begun. From Pakistan's nuclear doctrine to its growing ties with the West, to the urgent need for India to leapfrog in defense tech and deterrence strategy. This conversation pulls no punches. And who better to break it all down than Lieutenant General PJS Pannu, former Deputy Chief of Integrated Defense Staff. He helped raise India's Defense Space Agency, the Cyber Agency, and the Special Forces Division. Today, he also advises top defense tech bodies shaping India's digital battlefield. This isn't just analysis, it's a look behind the curtain with the man who's helped shape India's strategy. Watch now, because the war of tomorrow is being designed today. Let's get started. Before we dive into today's conversation, I want to take a quick moment and ask for a favor. We noticed that 93% of you who watch our content regularly aren't subscribed yet. My promise to you is simple. If you hit that subscribe button, we'll keep working hard to bring thought-provoking conversations, incredible guests, and the topics you really care about the most. It is practically free for you, but it makes a huge difference for us, helping us grow, reach more people, and bring even better content your way. Thank you for supporting. It means the world to us. Now let's get back to the video. General Pannu, welcome to Dive Publish. It's an honor to have you here. Means a lot.
Thank you, Shivam. Thank you for getting me over. I'm sure you're going to have a good chat, and whatever subject you have in your mind, I know that it'll come from your passion that you keep.
Thank you very much, sir. We must talk about the Pahalgam attack and Operation Sindoor, because it's been over a month since the Pahalgam attack in April 22nd. It's almost 20th today as we record. To begin with, sir, how do you think our response was when it comes to our diplomatic efforts, our politico-military affairs, the collaboration, and our civil response as well? If you would like to break down our response, how do you think we did?
There was a surprise that in the news channels, one was not hearing of such breaking news, which came that Many people have been killed initially, of course, figures are never put out initially. And there is a terror attack in Kashmir Valley. And then, of course, the name of Pahalgam in 26, and then how they were killed, and then segregation by religion. That actually, it is then from news, it became a huge concern. And from huge concern, it actually became a torrent of emotions. What happened was that the entire nation started looking at something which is not simple act of terror, but it is with a message. It is also to induce emotions, and generally between the powers to the people in one go create a response. It was designed to evoke a response. Had it been any lesser, then maybe the response may not have been there. So the entire event, if you really see how it was curated, whoever curated, we'll talk about it. It was to evoke a response. When you evoke a response, obviously you're also testing waters, whether you have the threshold of tolerance or whether you still have a lot of tolerance. I think nation also gets tested. So I think that is how it began, and then of course the response came. The timing of response, and when I say timing of response, it means the number of days after the event or after people understood exactly what has happened, we get back at those people who killed these 26 innocent Indians in front of their wives. They were segregated so that the wives could go back and tell home that this is what happened. So it was attack which was also designed to be witnessed and to be sent to so many homes who would go and narrate the story of terror, to generate terror family after family, because how many more people would have actually met those who actually saw it happening in front of their eyes.
The ladies who
yeah, the
used their
ladies, the
emotion.
children, some people who ran away or who were here and there, like a person is just enjoying somewhere else and he did not get into the arc of violence. All those people went back home and told stories how they saw. So I think it was an attack which was designed to carry a wave of emotions and information to people. Rather than people looking at those 3 terrorists who should have been caught and killed right there or in subsequent short time frame, I think the entire mood of the nation was to hit somebody who they could identify, and that was Pakistan. But not those people who could not be identified, who were actually those people who came and killed them.
So before we talk about the military capability of this Operation Sindoor and our response, one thing that just came to mind was that we're not talking enough about is the fact that our security wasn't present at that point of time. Many of us say that it was off season and there was illegal tourism at that point of time in Pahalgam, but do we understand the real scenario, what really happened and why there was no security at that point of time, knowing that it is a busy tourist spot?
I'm not too sure whether it was off season or on season. The fact is that the tourists are there, so it must be the season. Secondly, also it's been spoken about that particular spot in Pahalgam was not a place where usually people went, and this was something which they had just started. The hindsight theories can make you come to different conclusions, but the fact is that a terrorist who has to strike, he's got an initiative in his hands, and he can design how he wants to design and strike how he wants to strike. The rest is all then a cyclic response, and then so the response wasn't very quick. It was okay. But certainly there was zero intelligence. Otherwise, somebody should have been there to protect.
Sir, coming back to the military preparedness and how our armed forces placed it in 2025 to such responses, how do you think we did?
I think this was not really a war that was planned as any war is planned.
Correct.
From the days of Russia and Ukraine, there was something brewing up before the first bullet was fired. Whereas in case of Israel, there was nothing brewing up, people were holidaying. And it was just like Pahalgam, that people were holidaying. And Hamas all of a sudden on 7th of October stuck them. A lot of people thought that there was some fun game going on, but only when they started getting hit or I'm talking about Israel.
Yeah.
They realized that there's something very big which is unfolded, and the tragedy unfolded, and it just kept expanding. And on first day, Israel declared that they are at war. In India also, that was quite similar. And I think the trauma which the 7th October of Israel, I think it is the same design and same delivery which was planned out. And a lot of people were also mentioning that the fighters or the attackers or the terrorists of Hamas were also trained in Pakistan. So whether they were trained, how much they were trained, I'm not too sure, but there was a linkage which was being spoken about. So there is a commonality between the two. So obviously the reaction also would be on the same lines. Israel has always been more prepared for war because of the security dynamics being such. India is fighting a proxy war, has been fighting a proxy war, and in Kashmir it was seen that the tourism, because of the peace that prevailed, was on the increase, and a lot of Kashmiris were making a lot of money in tourism. People were generally happy, the economies were doing well, children were going to school, and I think Kashmir was coming back to normalcy. But I think the industry, which is a proxy war related militant terrorist industry, I think that had collapsed. So I think people who were only doing this realized that now the other people who were sufferers have become rich and they are prosperous. So the terror industry then had to come back and do the business. So I think the upper ground workers or overground workers, as they talk about, I think they would have helped the terrorists to plan, to execute, and later on to disappear. So now at least many operations have happened. I'm not too sure whether all those terrorists have been killed or some have been killed or some who were in the same league have been killed. I think those details are not yet known, at least to me.
So like you rightly mentioned that this wasn't a full-blown war, but it was a crisis situation for the military, for the armed forces, Army, Navy, and Air Force combined. How was the joint operation according to you? Were they successful in what they were doing? Our objectives were tick marked, and our capabilities were showcased, our technological advancement was showcased. So your take on our military capabilities, the core military capabilities?
Shivam, I don't think so. We were at a war that India has been preparing for. It was, I think, a very small segment. And it was, I think, a very quick reaction to what happened. And therefore, if you see the name of the operation was also Operation Sindoor. Now, what is Sindoor? Sindoor is something which is very emotionally attached to the women, married women. It's more symbol that they put Sindoor in their heads to say that they are married.
Yeah.
And when you snatch away somebody's marital happiness or bliss, so they actually were saying that we will take this Sindoor ka badla. So I think it was a limited mandate, that it was a military action which was taken by the military because we don't have terrorists. So we only have military. So if there is a terrorist operation which has happened against you, then obviously you have only military, you don't have terrorists. It can't be terror versus terror. So I think it is a military that had to be used with a limited mandate under the code name of Operation Sindoor, which meant to avenge the death of those 26 Indians who were killed in a manner that their married partners had to look at the torture and the death which happened in front of them. So that is why it was the action-reaction which, through use of limited military capability, with the limited mandate of hitting the terrorist camps. And we've all been talking about those 9 terrorist camps being hit and what were the repercussions of it and the accuracy with which these terrorist camps were hit. And immediately after that, there was a statement put out that this is we're not going to escalate.
Yes.
And it means that it was just one of those things that you hit back. It is not only a signal but also punishment to the lords and masters of who have been sponsoring training. They are the control headquarters. They are the actual leaders who have been sitting in comfort, very close to military cantonments, thinking that nothing will happen to them and they can continue to run a proxy war against India. I think it was to tell those people that if you're going to plan anything against India, we are going to get you wherever you are.
So since you mentioned about the message going loud and clear, did you think Rawalpindi got our message loud and clear?
I think Rawalpindi got the message loud and clear, but I do not know if they got the punishment loud and clear. Because if you start building to what the chief of Pakistan Army was talking about,
Just 1 week before he gave a statement as well.
yeah, so he was actually talking about.
In
It
India
was
and
an
Pakistan.
indication in his statement which only unfolded when it unfolded.
Yeah.
If it had not unfolded, then the statement would have been something which was more internal to Pakistan.
Exactly.
So
We
this became
neglected it.
external to Pakistan because the
I
situation
remember,
got unfolded.
I remember listening to him speak about differences between India and Pakistan, and I didn't give it too much importance because I'm like, it doesn't really matter right now. Pakistan doesn't matter because that's what our national security outlook has been. We have been looking at China more than our immediate threat, that is Pakistan. But that was a funny statement, sir. Please go on.
So the statement became more meaningful, which was against not only a statement aimed towards India, it was actually a statement in extension to what the Pakistan would be prepared to do, because knowing the reaction of the current dispensation in India, he would have expected that there would be retaliation, and then the army would be called out to protect Pakistan, and therefore army would improve their image. And he, who was also losing his credibility within the army and within the nation,
Absolutely.
also will have a reason to become more strong.
So their objective, to be more clear to the people who don't understand geopolitics and national security, internal security of Pakistan as well, that Pakistan's objective was to get the power again to the army, which was losing because of Imran Khan and other internal situations. Do you think they got that objective right because of the backing of the civilian population of Pakistan back to the Pakistan army?
Within Pakistan, of course, it is known what was going on, but I think to select a target of 9 terrorist camps was like that we had an understanding where the actual leaders of tanzeems and these terror camps were targeted. But I don't think so. The statement of the Chief of Army Staff of Pakistan ever indicated that actually he's the one who's done it. And I think as the whole thing unfolded, people started understanding that it is not the terrorists alone in those 9 terror camps, but the terrorists actually are sitting in the GHQ in Rawalpindi. And I think this was something which was slow or maybe omitted or avoided, not to get the entire Pakistan army into it. But the fact of the matter is that we have to realize who was the mastermind. If the question is who was the mastermind, then I suppose the objective of Operation Sindoor would have been designed accordingly.
So, but my question was directed to the objective of the Pakistan army, which was to gain the sympathy of the civilian population back. Do you think by India attacking and they are able to create the narrative around our retaliation as an attack, did they gain the popularity back in the state of Pakistan?
They would have gained the popularity if we had continued to fight and civilian population had got hit, because then they would have actually run for cover for Pakistan army to protect them. That didn't happen. So it means that they know that the nation was hit, but ordinary population was spared. And it's no fault of an ordinary Pakistani. Why should an ordinary Pakistani be hit if the Chief of Army Staff wants to protect his own turf and the image of the army? Then what is the fault of local civilians there? So the fact is that they did not run for cover of the army. I don't think so. Army would have achieved it. But yes, army must have achieved something that at least it was acknowledged institution of power. And that means that it was indicated very clearly it is not a politician, but it is the army which calls the shots.
Why I ask you that is because I have some people that I know, friends from my university who are from Pakistan, and their narrative was all about how the Indian army is doing something wrong and how the Pakistan army is protecting them.
I think this narrative is also sold to their own people by the Pakistan army, the ISPR. The entire narrative, if they could write a narrative for their own Chief of Army Staff, why would they not continue to write a narrative of the action-reaction? So I think they had built their entire narrative to say how to mobilize people. And actually the whole design was to mobilize people in favor of the army.
Correct.
So they were more prepared ahead of time to mobilize a narrative pro-army, anti maybe some political leaders, and because the Imran Khan his faction had actually gone against the army. It was also to tell them that, look, we are going to hang you if you're going to do something like that. That the civilian cases are going to be tried in military courts is something which has happened during Op Sindoor. That is amendment which has happened. So it means it has certainly given more power, if not a good image, but more power to the army.
Since we're talking about narratives, and nowadays wars are more about narratives, and how it's not about doing the right thing or being righteous in terms of your actions, but it's about how you sell it to the international media, the international diplomacy. I somehow feel that we didn't do the best of the jobs when it comes to building an international narrative. We are doing now by sending out, a group of council to sell the idea of the terrorism that comes from Pakistan. But I think Pakistan is doing much better job when it comes to pushing their narrative out in the international media. Do you agree to that, sir?
I think this is a speculative thought. But I would say that over years, ever since Pakistan came into existence, they have been darlings of the West. The way Pakistan was created or carved, it was basically need for the great game for the Western powers to keep Russians out of it.
Yeah.
So what they over years and years, the Pakistan ideology, the Pakistan military, the land of Pakistan, the infrastructure that got built was all built in a manner. Like, for example, giving them patent tanks was not actually against India. They gave them patent tanks against the Russians. But they did not tell Pakistanis that we are arming you because tomorrow if we have to go against Russians, so we will pick up the Western equipment from there and use it. And maybe we'll use your crews only. And Pakistan has always remained available on rent. They have all been ready to provide a division to Saudi Arabia or any country. I mean, it's a mercenary army. It's a division that they can deploy on payment. So they also have been giving a lot of material, ideological support, infrastructure support, and the military support to the Western powers to make sure that the Russians are kept at bay. Russians were looked at a different ideology to keep communism away.
Yeah.
But to use Pakistan to keep one type of communists away, they have landed up inviting the other type of communists into Pakistan. So Pakistan is available on rent. So earlier they were rented by the Western world to keep the communists away. Now the communists have rented them to keep the Western power away.
Another thing that really blew my mind during this Operation Sindoor was the fact that one day before we concluded Operation Sindoor, IMF had granted them about $2.3 billion of loan, which is unfathomable, especially during a time of a crisis.
I think it is fathomable. The Western world look at Pakistan as a more willing partner. And I think the ISI has also done a lot of joint operations with certain Western countries in Afghanistan. So this is also to tell Pakistan that, look, we have not forgotten you and we can still help you. If you need more help, then you can come to us. You don't have to rush to China. But the Western powers have forgotten one thing, that the IMF money actually is a money which will flow into China, who will sell them military equipment in the exchange of the IMF money, because it is not that these many actual currency notes will land up in China. It is out of the total what they have, out of the total which gets added on with the IMF, the equal or more or less amount would land up in China, and they will sell military equipment and hardware to them. So the IMF is actually making good business for China to sell their hardware to Pakistan, and Pakistan will do more and more in favor of China, but continue to suck the money of the West to ensure that they remain a fulcrum.
Constant threat.
They are actually a fulcrum between the West and the Chinese, because whoever wants to use it, they turn around in a manner that they get used. So if completely the West had completely junked them, it would have been very difficult for the West to come back to them in case they need them. West still feels that they are not written off. They must be finding some use in the Pakistanis still.
Sir, but what is the use case? Terrorism is one use case. I don't think they have a lot of national resources or any technology that they create or any manufacturing that they do what is the use case for the Western countries? I understand China's use case is to deter India, but what is the use case for the US, for instance?
For over 2 decades or maybe more, the Pakistan army has been fighting along with the American army in Afghanistan.
That's long gone, sir. That's
Okay.
it's USSR and Afghanistan is not a problem anymore because US is not deployed themselves in Afghanistan anymore, and Russia is not a direct. Even though it's a threat, but it's not a direct threat anymore. It's China that they should be, placing themselves as an adversary now.
Shivam, there are actually number of think tanks in America who push the Pakistan ideology because in those days when Pakistan and the Western world or Americans were working together, I think those people have become now more traditional thinkers which continue to think the same way as they did. So I think a lot of think tanks are still pro-Pakistan. And also how the Americans built the constituency was that Pakistan was part of the CENTCOM and India is part of PACOM, Pacific Command. So the entire security looks at Pakistan and India in different blocks, not in the same block. So what happens is that if there are any concerns, what they call it a AFPAC region.
Yeah.
Why do they link it up Afghanistan, Pakistan, and then they clearly look Pakistan westwards, and they look at India eastwards. The dividing line being the international border or the border between India and Pakistan. That is the division of PACOM and the CENTCOM. So their number of people or type of people or the think tanks which look at Pakistan is not from the Indian prism, and people in America who look at India is not from the Pakistan prism, purely from the division of CENTCOM and PACOM. So therefore think tanks also think for CENTCOM and think tanks also think of PACOM separately. But having said that, I think it will take a lot of more time possibly for the think tanks in America to start looking at Pakistan from the Chinese prism. I'm sure it is happening, but I think it is just those loyalists who have for years and years supported Pakistan, they continue to do it. Because they make friends, and they make friends not only, I think some of them are even married in Pakistan, or Pakistanis married to Americans.
Yeah, most of the generals,
Yeah.
They retire and go to either the UK or the US. They spend the money that they've earned through the defense budgets.
And not that I have information where they make their homes, but I certainly would speculate that they don't make homes in China. They make homes in the Western world only.
True.
And then because they live there more, they tell them more stories, and their stories sell better for the simple reason that they have been working together for very long. And imagine old friend coming and telling you a new story, you would more often than not believe in them. So I suppose the West took very, very, very long to open their eyes towards the reality of Pakistan till the time Osama bin Laden was actually caught there. But then I think maybe it's been now many years.
It's been forgotten now.
I think, yeah, then they got busy with Afghanistan, and at some point they felt, Afghanistan is also too far, and they are now sick and tired with Russia, Soviet Union having broken down. So there is now a protection of CAR, countries which keep the so-called great game adversary away. So therefore, Afghanistan became irrelevant. But then the thinkers are still yet to think differently.
Yeah. So when it comes to the IMF loan bailout, this is probably the 25th bailout in the last 10 years. I've got a theory, if I may share with you. Tell me if I'm on the right direction of thinking. That ever since in the 90s, Pakistan was able to create its nuclear power. They have realized that they've got a blank check, which they can get sanctioned anytime, because it could create a problem for the West, the US, if Pakistan was to sell off its nuclear tactics strategy to countries like Israel or adversaries which don't have nuclear capabilities at the moment. Do you think that's a right thought process? And that is why IMF continues to bail them out, because if they don't bail them out, they'll have to sell these nuclear information and strategies to the countries that don't possess it, and maybe it goes to the wrong hands as well.
There has been point of view which is not the same on their nuclear assets. Firstly, who gave them the technology and how the nuclear assets were built? Many people believe Americans helped them. Many people think Chinese helped them. Many people think that no, it was more of their internal struggle and that we will eat grass and we will still build a bomb, and then maybe the money came from the Islamic world because they were to build an Islamic bomb. Also, when they contributed or they were seen to be contributing to the global terror network, so people started looking at Pakistan. No, they should not fail because they'll give it to a terrorist. So it will be. You remember they've been talking about a nuclear bomb in a suitcase that they will start. So that was a figment of imagination. Nuclear bombs in suitcases, tactical nuclear bomb miniaturization of. So it means that people were actually concerned that the nuclear technology in the hands of Pakistan Army, which is actually
too
the
dangerous.
same thing as the Pakistan terror network. So therefore, it is very easy for a terrorist stroke a military person to think in the same way because both are getting more radicalized. So they could actually give the Islamic bomb concept of terror bomb. And I think you're right in that perspective that a lot of Western thinkers also feel that they should not be running around with a begging bowl. Give them the money so that they don't use the nuclear blackmail, not only in warfighting but also in trading.
So I'm really enjoying our conversation shifting towards geopolitics, but we must come back to Operation Sindoor. Since you are a tech man yourself, you're a passionate person when it comes to cyberspace and other technological advancement that our armed forces has been, and you've been quite vocal about it since the beginning of change and the modern strategies of warfare. First, where does your interest come from? That's the first part. And second, in terms of Operation Sindoor, how was our presence of a technology advancement, sir?
As I mentioned in the beginning, that I think the war has not fully unfolded. It is a very small portion of the complete war if it was to unfold. So to base your complete analysis on a very small 4 days standoff operation may not be a very clear description of counting successes or lessons learnt. But what is important is that Pakistan is certainly getting technology from China, which has been proved.
Agreed.
Second thing is that the defense industrial complex of China, which has been churning out the hardware, has never tested their equipment. And they would have tested their equipment either in Taiwan or against India or somewhere else, but they have not yet got the opportunity of testing their equipment because they didn't want the Chinese blood in the testing of their equipment. So best is to get Pakistani blood involved in testing their equipment. So when you talk about technology, I think it is the Chinese technology, which I'm not saying is bad or good, but I think technology of China was put to test where for decades together they've been talking about informatization. They have been talking about digital warfare. They've been talking about autonomous warfare. They've been talking about standoff attacks and precision fighting. They've been talking about many strategies which are talking about winning a war before starting one. They are very good at isolating a small portion of battlefield and completely pulverizing that, They also believe in attacking in the rear and completely dislocating the enemy. So with Pakistan, they have that advantage that it will be a Pakistani blood and the Chinese hardware which will be put to test. And I think it is a lot of data which would have gone there. Some
Absolutely.
Would have done very good because they have done a lot of reverse engineering. They have a very well-developed defense industrial complex. And therefore, I would not say they did badly, because if you continue to say they did badly, obviously, we are not going to learn from something which was good. So, but
True.
I'm not going to talk about what was good, what was bad.
Absolutely.
Because what was bad is all coming out in the media. But what is coming out in the media doesn't mean that Pakistanis and Chinese would not sit together to mend it and to come back again with now a mended way of doing things or with a refined technology and modernize it.
Absolutely.
So they have actually given you a lab where the Indian might has tried to punch a hole. Wherever it got punched, they would repair it, and wherever we could not punch it, maybe
they'll enhance it.
They would enhance it. And so therefore the talk of giving them more better planes, maybe IMF grant will help the Chinese to sell more planes by taking more money. Now that you've got IMF bailout, give us the money, we'll give you better planes. That is also a possibility. The multi-domain operations, if you really look at the Army, Navy, Air Force, we've gone to space and cyber. And in space, in cyber, there is a new domain which is somewhere in space and cyber, but I think electromagnetic warfare is one huge domain which should not be lost sight of. But in this particular case, I think the electromagnetic or electronic warfare, or the electronics per se in technology, I think has been used in the RF and EW and the protection of SEMA, which is cyber and communication or cyber spectrum, which gets used. So it is the electronic warfare and cyber warfare put together. I think all that is coming in handy. And what is important is to understand that China has also used quantum in a very big way. And once you use quantum, it is easier for you to go into the AI, because quantum A is more secure, it operates faster, it can process systems faster, and it can also give you huge amount of security. So you can have a better attacking and better defensive mechanism in the electromagnetic spectrum.
So you spoke about intelligence gathering and ISRs. When it comes to navigation systems, India's got its own under development. It's called NAVIC system. But it's been all over the news that it was utilized during this operation. Do you think it was operationalized well enough?
Shivam, whenever you're modernizing your military machine, which we are modernizing, there is always work in progress. There are a lot of test beds which are at work at the same time. The good thing and the bad thing is that normally the test beds are not available, and in war the test beds get available very quickly. So you also land up testing some of it. So I think a lot of work in progress was actually put into warfighting.
Right.
And I think India also created a lot of new normals in technology, and whatever was yet to be deployed or was being deployed or half deployed got fully deployed. Because then you're working 24/7. I would have a fair understanding that our PNT capability, that is the NAVIC, along with the capability that we already have, which is also, it is the same thing. GNSS is the same as NAVIC, which is, IRNSS, which is regional navigation system, because it covers about, say, a little less than 2,000 kilometers around India. So it is a regional IRNSS, that what they talk about, is the same as NAVIC. So a lot of work had been happening on that. And if they are saying that this has been tested well, I will have reasons to believe that it got tested during the operations.
Right. So there's also a lot of speculations on the use of artificial intelligence in a war gaming and a strategy when it comes to Operation Sindoor. We've been saying that we were able to speculate where the drones would come from, the angle of the drones. Is our AI capability at the moment when it comes to modern war fighting?
Actually, military intelligence is not the same thing as the artificial intelligence. Military intelligence actually tells you it is the ISR capability. You get the intelligence, and before intelligence you do reconnaissance of it. And before reconnaissance you do the surveillance. So if you have kept your adversary or the areas from where the threat can emanate, if you've kept it under surveillance, then you can do continuous reconnaissance in certain areas. And once you confirm that it is actually happening, and that becomes information which turns into intelligence. The number of satellites which have been doing this earlier, and the data has been collected, all of a sudden when there is a surge which happens, so a surge can be checked into whether it is the space ISR or the ground ISR, which HUMINT is also part of, and the ground intelligence, because a lot of radio frequencies get generated, so you come to know from the electronic intelligence that something is happening. So it is a collective of many things which tell you that there is a new normal in warfare, and all your eyes and ears, which are now more electronic and sensor based, they start acting together. Some of it are manual, some of them are autonomous, but man in the loop is still there. So AI is still subservient to human. but at some point, it can, I think, given the data that we have collected, I think it will become more autonomous, because then you would know, yes, it actually happened because this is confirmed by a human being.
True.
You can only trust a machine once you confirm that what the machine has been saying over a period of time is right. So I think the human interface would have confirmed whether the half AI or the part AI was successful. I think this experience would help us to make more autonomous warfare possible.
True. So when it comes to emerging technologies, we've got drones, which I feel we didn't do the best at when it comes to this operation. We had air defense system, which we were good at. AI was utilized well. Our space intelligence was utilized. Cyber was not so much. But when it comes to the war fighting in the future, in the coming decade, and maybe next year, maybe the year after that, where do we need to improve? Where does our armed forces, the ministry, need to improve to make a collective effort in improvement of the military capabilities in terms of technology?
Purely going by what happened, I would build a parallel.
Not just what happened, but what might happen as well in the future.
Yeah, so I'm building it to exactly answer what might happen. Take your mind back to Gulf War One. Gulf War One was actually a media war where everybody was watching, sitting in drawing rooms through the televisions, how the Patriot missiles and how the accuracy of the precision of American war machinery through the air has been delivered. Standoff, kind of delivery, and huge amount of damage that they could bring to the Iraqis. Really speaking, many people think that the air supremacy is now the new normal at that time. The missiles are a new normal at that time. So Gulf War One stopped at a point with some lessons. So I would say that this is like Gulf War One for us. But if Gulf War One had been fully successful, there would not have been any requirement of Gulf War Two. And in Gulf War Two, actually the tanks had to roll. And ultimately the boots on ground had to go down to Baghdad. And then you know what happened, that the entire country got annihilated only once the boots were on ground and the tanks were rolling, and the physical, kinetic and contact warfare had to be put to test. So therefore, I would say that if you're talking about the lessons learned, I would want you to draw a parallel between Gulf War One to Gulf War Two. So let's not learn half lessons, because maybe we can have Op Sindoor 2 or equivalent of number 2 of Gulf War 2, which might have to happen if Pakistan does not behave. So we can have tanks rolling in and the kinetic and the contact warfare coming in. I think those will be very different days that in the military operations. That even in Hamas, what happened was initially they started throwing missiles, and then the aerial raids and all. Ultimately, the infantry had to go into the tunnel warfare, and ultimately they had to really put their boots on ground.
Correct.
So to say that I would just stop at that it is equivalent to Gulf War One. Don't learn full lessons, but in that you learn full lessons in that part.
Wow, so that's a brilliant answer, and I'm really enjoying our conversation. But we must call it. And I've got, before we go, sir. By the way, this is not the last conversation between us in terms at DOAP. I'm going to bring you again on a different subject, because there's so many tangents I would want to bring down to, but because the short of time, I'll close this conversation. But before I close this conversation, I've got 2 personal questions, if you allow me, sir. So this podcast is called Diary of a Publisher, and I make sure to ask my guests one question based on a book. So if there's one book that General Pannu had read earlier in his life that he wished he would have read earlier, which book would that be, sir?
Any book that you read today reflects of what has happened in the past. But I think the books are more fiction oriented, like there's a book which is speculating about how we are going to fight against China, and it is the Dragons war or something like that, which I just flipped through, and based on that I ended up writing a book, The Power of Future Machines. So I think reading history is good, but I think to read fiction and technology put together will tell you where you need to concentrate for the future. So I think it is important to read about the current and future, and a little bit about the past. So I would say that I would be happy to say that I think we should also read some speculative ways that the world can shape for the future.
Any particular book that you've read in the past that changed your perception in military and life as well? Any book?
I think all books contribute one way or the other, so you can't say one is better than the other. I would not like to put a name because it'll amount to that the other books are less significant than the other one. I think every book teaches you something or the
Fair
other.
enough, though. Fair. So my last question for you today is: so, if there was a piece of advice General Pannu would give to his younger self and his 18-year-old self is watching the show, what message would you give them, sir?
Prepare, prepare, and prepare. And imagine that you're going to fight every day, and then only you will be able to get a comfort of peace. But if you don't prepare, it's not going to be easy. You will actually land up into a situation to fight something that you didn't prepare for.
Prepare.
Yes.
Beautiful, sir. Has been a lovely conversation with you. I have a lot of takeaways on and off camera as well. We had some brilliant conversation off the camera. Again, thank you so much for your time, sir. Means a lot. I'm sure the audience had a lot of takeaways as well. We at DOAP are working really hard to take this podcast to the next level. Our guests are going to get even better. Our production quality is going to get even better. And hopefully, I'm going to get even better too. Most importantly, we are committed to being consistent and continue to do what we love the most. Until then, keep reimagining yourself and know that the power of change lies within you. Jai Hind.